Emily Thompson never imagined a trip to Walmart would change her life forever, and Michael Harris didn't he expect his reckless rage to ignite an entire town's hunt for justice. When a single act of violence shattered their ordinary morning, ordinary shoppers became heroes, chasing a killer through streets and parking lots in a race against time. The morning at the Brookridge Walmart began in the usual quiet rhythm, the kind that gives people a sense of comfort because nothing seems out of place. Cars rolled slowly into the parking lot, parents ushered children out of vehicles, and workers hurried toward the entrance with coffee cups in hand. The sun had just risen enough to cast long shadows across the pavement, making everything look calm and predictable. No one suspected that within minutes, the routine would be shattered by an event so sudden and shocking that it would stay in the town's memory for years. A silver SUV drifted into the lot with an odd sense of urgency. It didn't obey the usual patient flow of shoppers finding parking spots. Instead, it cut sharply around corners and sped through open lanes as though trying to outrun something unseen. People glanced up, annoyed at first, assuming the driver was simply careless or late for work. But that irritation quickly turned into confusion as the vehicle continued behaving unpredictably, moving far too fast for such a crowded area. Witnesses later reported that the SUV accelerated without hesitation as it approached a woman walking toward the entrance with her shopping list in hand. She was focused on her morning tasks, unaware of the danger coming toward her. In a split second, the vehicle struck her with a force that sent her collapsing onto the ground. Some shoppers froze where they stood, unable to process what they'd just seen, while others dropped their bags and ran toward her, shocked and frightened. The SUV didn't stop. It didn't slow down. It didn't show the hesitation of someone who had made a mistake. Instead, it kept going, swerving wide and speeding toward the far exit of the parking lot as though following a predetermined path. The suddenness of the act left the crowd stunned, and a chilling realization spread among them. This wasn't an accident. The driver had committed something intentional, something far darker than reckless driving. As the victim lay on the ground, a group of bystanders tried to help her while someone called emergency services. Others looked desperately at the direction the SUV had gone, trying to remember details: color, shape, damage, anything that could be useful later. Security cameras, car dash cams, and phones all captured bits and pieces that would soon become crucial evidence. The woman's condition worsened quickly. Paramedics arrived and worked urgently, but despite their efforts, she lost her life shortly after reaching the hospital. News of the hit and run spread rapidly through the community, stirring shock, fear, and anger. People who had been in the parking lot felt shaken, replaying the moment in their minds. What started as a peaceful morning had turned into a nightmare, and an ordinary Walmart had become the scene of a deadly mystery. Detectives arrived at the Walmart within hours, determined to piece together what had happened before the trail went cold. Officers gathered footage from every angle: surveillance cameras at the entrance, security poles scattered around the lot, and even recordings from shoppers who had captured the speeding SUV on their dashcams. While the images were helpful, they all had one frustrating detail in common: the license plate was either blurred, covered in dust, or captured at an angle that made it impossible to read. Still, investigators noted the deep scratches across the rear door and the broken taillight, details unusual enough to help identify the vehicle later. Shoppers who had witnessed the scene remained shaken as they gave their statements. Some described the SUV's sudden speed. Others remembered seeing it lingering earlier, driving slowly as though watching the area. These scattered observations hinted that the incident might not have been random. Detectives began building a timeline, comparing footage to determine how long the SUV had been in the area. It became clear that the driver had circled the lot at least twice before striking the victim, a detail that unsettled both investigators and the community. Word of the event spread rapidly across social media. Online groups formed within minutes, with people sharing clips, enhancing blurry images, and posting warnings for others to stay vigilant. The name Walmart Killer began circulating, echoing the fear growing throughout town. Despite police warnings not to interfere, people felt they could not simply wait for answers. Many believed that identifying the SUV before the driver could disappear was a race against time. One post gained particular attention. A shopper claimed they had seen the same SUV parked near the store earlier that week, as if the driver had been scouting the area days before the attack. Detectives treated the claim seriously, sending officers to nearby businesses to check older footage in hopes of confirming it. The idea that the victim may have been targeted, or at least that the attack was premeditated, shifted the case into a darker realm of possibility. While police worked behind the scenes, the community's involvement grew stronger. People began spotting similar vehicles around town, reporting every detail. Even false leads helped narrow the search. The sense of unity was unusual but intense. Strangers who had never spoken before now traded information as though working on a shared mission. That collective determination caught the attention of local news stations, who highlighted the community's efforts and fueled even more participation. Day turned into night without any arrests, but the killer had made one mistake. He had driven into the busiest part of town, where dozens of eyes and cameras captured him. The clues were scattered, but they were there, waiting to be connected. The hunt for the driver was no longer just a police investigation. It had become a community-fueled pursuit, driven by fear, anger, and a need for justice. The crowd that gathered in the Walmart parking lot that evening wasn't driven by curiosity alone. There was a growing sense among the townspeople that waiting for updates wasn't enough. The victim had been one of their own, a familiar face to many, and the idea that her killer was still roaming freely left people uneasy. Groups formed naturally, neighbors speaking with neighbors, shoppers comparing what they remembered, and volunteers collecting bits of information to share with police. What began as shocked conversations slowly transformed into organized determination. Several people had managed to capture partial angles of the SUV on their phones. One visitor had recorded it passing behind them just seconds before the attack. Others had snapshots of the vehicle earlier in the day, when it had circled the lot unusually slowly. These different pieces, although imperfect on their own, offered details that investigators found useful. The scratches on the side panel, the cracked taillight, and even the brand of tires helped narrow the search. Every detail mattered, and the community refused to let any clue go unnoticed. Online groups expanded rapidly, gathering thousands of members in just a few hours. People posted screenshots, maps of possible escape routes, and even drone footage captured by hobbyists who wanted to contribute. Instead of acting recklessly or confronting strangers, the community focused on documenting sightings and forwarding them to police. Their efforts earned cautious praise from authorities, who recognized the value in having so many eyes alert at once. A breakthrough came from a man who lived only a few miles from the Walmart. He claimed he had spotted a similar SUV at a nearby gas station, parked awkwardly near the air pump. The timestamp on the station as security footage confirmed it had been recorded just 30 minutes after the incident. The driver exited the vehicle, hood pulled low and gloves still on, and filled the tires with air before driving away. The broken taillight was unmistakable. Investigators and residents alike were stunned by the suspect's calm behavior, as though completely unbothered by what had happened earlier. This discovery encouraged whole groups of residents to widen their search. They scanned backroads, visited gas stations, and checked parking lots where someone trying to hide might leave a damaged car. Each team communicated through online channels, passing leads to detectives as they appeared. With every hour that passed, the picture became clearer. The killer was staying within the area, not fleeing far, almost as if he believed he could slip through unnoticed. The tension in the community grew heavier as night fell again. People felt closer to identifying the driver, yet the lack of an arrest made every quiet street feel threatening. Still, the shoppers refused to retreat into fear. Their focus sharpened, their resolve deepened, and their efforts combined with police work pushed the search into its most crucial phase. Investigators reviewing the expanding collection of clues began noticing patterns that hinted at something far more calculated than a simple hit and run. The victim, once thought to be an unfortunate passerby caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, had recently been involved in a tense property dispute that ended only days before the incident. Court records revealed she had won the case, leaving the opposing party with a significant financial setback. This detail shifted the entire direction of the investigation. Detectives considered the possibility that the attack might have been a planned act of revenge rather than a random outburst of violence. As police dug deeper into the victim's background, the community continued its own search across town. A group of residents exploring backroads outside Brookridge stumbled upon an old shed that seemed recently used. The location was isolated, surrounded by trees, and far from main traffic. Tire tracks in the dirt matched the width of the suspect's SUV, and a faint smell of burned rubber lingered in the air. Inside the shed, the group found small signs of activity: discarded gloves, empty food containers, and footprints in dusty corners. None of it proved definitively that the killer had been there, but the timing and condition of the items strongly suggested a temporary hiding place. When investigators examined the shed, they confirmed the tire impressions were fresh and consistent with footage from the Walmart lot. The broken taillight had left a unique mark visible even in mud, giving detectives another piece of evidence. Still, the suspect remained elusive. Every discovery seemed to prove only that he was one step ahead, constantly moving, constantly adjusting his plan. The combination of preparation and unpredictability made the case increasingly complex. Meanwhile, the property dispute resurfaced as a primary lead. The man who lost the case owned the same model of SUV seen at Walmart. He had a documented history of angry confrontations and an established pattern of impulsive decisions under stress. Neighbors reported hearing arguments from his home in recent weeks, and coworkers mentioned he had seemed unusually tense. Although none of this confirmed guilt, the circumstantial evidence raised concern, and investigators placed him under quiet surveillance. The most unsettling twist came when detectives discovered the shed was owned by a distant relative of the dispute suspect. The connection was subtle but undeniable. It implied coordination, or at the very least, access to a secluded place perfect for hiding. The idea that the suspect might have been planning the attack for more than a week sent a chill through everyone following the case. Residents, already on edge, felt the weight of the revelation. The killer was not acting at random. He was deliberate, strategic, and deeply invested in evading law enforcement. The town's resolve hardened further. People sensed the investigation was closing in, but they also feared what could happen if the suspect felt cornered. The final stage of the hunt was approaching, and no one knew how it would end. By the second day after the attack, the tension in Brookridge had reached a boiling point. The community, now fully invested in tracking the SUV, moved with a quiet urgency. Shoppers and residents who had witnessed the initial incident continued scanning streets, alleys, and parking lots, reporting every sighting and movement. Social media channels were flooded with posts, videos, and screenshots, creating a near real-time map of the suspect's possible routes. Every tip was analyzed, compared, and shared with the authorities, who coordinated with volunteers to maintain order while tracking the vehicle. The breakthrough came in the late afternoon when a local resident spotted the SUV parked behind an abandoned hardware store on the edge of town. The broken taillight and scratches matched all previous descriptions perfectly. Word spread quickly through the online groups, and soon a crowd had gathered at a safe distance, keeping the vehicle in view without approaching it. Phones were raised to capture any movement, ready to alert the authorities immediately. The SUV remained still for a tense stretch of time, as if the driver sensed the growing attention but had no immediate plan to flee. Police units arrived with precision, surrounding the building while ensuring civilians stayed out of harm's way. The suspect, unaware that his movements were being monitored, finally stepped out of the vehicle and attempted to escape on foot. The chase was tense but brief. The field behind the hardware store offered no cover, and officers quickly closed the distance. Within minutes, the man was apprehended near a drainage ditch, his calm demeanor finally shattered. Evidence from the SUV, combined with the connections discovered at the shed, provided authorities with the confirmation they needed to charge him. The capture brought a mixture of relief and reflection to the town. For days, fear had permeated every street corner and parking lot. Residents who had joined the hunt felt a sense of accomplishment tempered by the knowledge that the tragedy could have been far worse. The community had played a critical role in tracking the SUV and providing crucial information that guided law enforcement to the suspect. Their vigilance, organization, and courage turned what could have been a fleeting investigation into a decisive operation that ensured justice was served. In the weeks that followed, discussions about the event spread beyond Brookridge. News outlets highlighted how ordinary citizens had contributed to solving a high-stakes case, raising questions about the balance between community involvement and law enforcement responsibility. Meanwhile, the victim's story remained at the center of local consciousness. Memorials were held, and her life, abruptly ended in a moment of violence, was remembered through acts of solidarity and awareness. The incident had left an indelible mark on the town, but it also demonstrated the power of vigilance, cooperation, and determination in the face of danger. The killer was behind bars, but the story of how a community refused to let fear paralyze them became the lasting legacy of the tragedy.